Hey everyone, what's going on? Yesterday in sports mainstream media, a major story was that the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, signed the former Orlando Magic coach to be their coach. And this is just how scripted it always is. Think about it. The big deal with the Lakers having a terrible season and so on, right? It all had to do with Magic Johnson. And then Magic Johnson steps down. Now the Lakers are hiring the former Orlando Magic coach. And what's so interesting about this, if you follow this channel, I talk about how the mainstream media is always scripted this way. And if you understand ancient knowledge practices that are being used within these mainstream media stories and sports scripting, you'll understand why they do it this way. And there's a practice of coding letters into numbers and numbers into letters, which comes from Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism that has a belief that God created the world by merging the letter with the number. It's called Gematria. So check out some links in the description. But look at this. Notice that they hired him 95 days before Magic Johnson's birthday. 95 days. In this language of Gematria, if you write out Los Angeles Lakers, it just so happens to equal 95. It also equals 58, just like Kobe Bryant, and so on, So there's all of these other numerical riddles. There's four different ciphers here. I explained this in lots of the other videos, but notice Kobe Bryant equals 41, just like his poem Dear Basketball equals 41 that he used when he retired, and that's the way they always do this system. So 95 days. Also, 3 months and 3 days, a lot like a 33. And, look what magic equals in Gematria. Magic equals 33. NBA Finals equals 33. No doubt that it is scripted this way. The Magic coach, just after Magic Johnson steps down. Look at this guy, too. His name's Frank Vogel. His birthday is June 21st. If you go from his birthday, or from the day that they hired him to his birthday, it's 1 month and 11 days, a lot like a 111. And look what his name equals. Frank Vogel equals 111 in Gematria. What's interesting too is if you put the in front of it, the NBA Finals also equals 111. It's also 42 days, which is interesting because Lakers equal 42. Look at this. Lakers equal 42. Look what LeBron James equals. LeBron James equals 42. If you remember when LeBron James got injured earlier this season, it was 4 months and 2 days after Kobe Bryant's birthday, and then LeBron James made his comeback 5 months and 8 days after Kobe Bryant's birthday. And remember, Kobe Bryant equals 58, just like Los Angeles Lakers, and so on, right? Los Angeles Lakers, Kobe Bryant both equal 58. LeBron James makes his comeback on January 31st against the Clippers, and LeBron James's injury was all synced up to Kobe Bryant. In November this year, I talked about how I thought LeBron James would possibly get injured because he's going to be turning 34 years old, and everything about Kobe when he got injured was all about the number 34. He couldn't play with everything about Kobe's career was 34. He couldn't play with number 34 Shaq. He got injured when he was 34 years old against the Golden State Warriors. And, he came back 34 weeks later. In that game that he got injured, he scored 43 points and got the Lakers their 34th win. Just before he retired, the Lakers lost by 34 points to the Warriors. All of this 34. And then lo and behold, LeBron James gets injured on the Lakers' 34th game of the season on Christmas Day, just before LeBron James turns 34. Then he plays against the Clippers on January 31st, and then he sits out the next game against the Golden State Warriors 34 days after his birthday, his 34th birthday. And the reason it's so interesting he came back on 131 against the Clippers is because DeMarcus Cousins' Achilles injury was also in connection to Kobe Bryant. And DeMarcus Cousins made his comeback against none other than the Los Angeles Clippers. And there's a lot more I'm skipping over, but I made this post clear back on November 20th of 2018, and I talked all about this king symbolism. LeBron James, he's mostly known, for being a Cleveland Cavalier. And a Cavalier in history is a follower of King Charles during the English Civil War. He was the son of King James in history. And when the Cavaliers won the NBA Finals, they won it on the real King James's birthday in history, the anniversary of the real King James's birthday. They're Cavaliers, which are followers of King Charles, King James's son. LeBron is King James. There's all this king narrative, and I said it would only make sense for Queen Elizabeth to die and Prince Charles to become King Charles III within the royal family right now if LeBron James would get injured. It makes more sense, right? The King James dies, and then, that would allow King Charles to become the king. And there's a bunch of other things, interesting connections to the Portland Trail Blazers, who are from the City of Roses, and I talked about the War of the Roses and many other things here. But just note all of this king symbolism that I'm talking about. And even when Luke Walton, when he resigned, I talked about how it was connected to the marathon symbolism that was going on. We had the death of Nipsey Hussle, and everything about him was marathon. It was outside of the Marathon store. One of his albums had marathon in it. There was a lot of interesting things synced up to marathons. And in this post, I talked about how Luke Walton, his name equals the same as King Charles III. They both equal 134. And then just, a few days after I make this blog post, Luke Walton signs with the Sacramento Kings to be their head coach. What are the odds of that? Luke Walton signs with the Sacramento Kings. He has the same gematria as King Charles III. And within all of this marathon coding, I talked about how it's connected to 2016, to that Chelsea bombing that we got. And that's why Chelsea Manning is really important in this narrative that is going on within the mainstream media currently. Chelsea Manning, and we had the Boston Marathon. Kobe Bryant got injured just before the Boston Marathon bombing. And then in 2016, we had the Chelsea bombings, and it was also the Minnesota Mall stabbing on that same day. And it was all connected to Chelsea stuff. And moral of the story, Luke Walton's name equals 262, his full name, 262. And this is important because a big day I was talking about with the Chelsea bombing stuff was September 19th, 919, right? 919. This year it'll be 91919 even. How interesting is that? And since 2014, I have been mentioning this date with Queen Elizabeth II. It's a significant date to her because it's the 262nd day. That's why it's important. Luke Walton equals 262. And the reason it's important is because she became the queen in the year 26, and she was coronated on the date of 6/2, and she became the queen on the date of 2/6. Maybe I said she became the queen. She was born in the year 26, became the queen on 2/6, coronated on 6/2, right? She turned 26 years old just after becoming the queen. And in Gematria, the word queen just so happens to equal 26 and 62. 26, 62. Think about that in regards to the 262nd day, 26 and 62. And, I just pointed out this date, 919. Now, look at this other cipher called Jewish Gematria, and think about how this all comes from, Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. And look at Frank Vogel's name, 919, a lot like this date that I was talking about with the Lakers' former coach Luke Walton and how it's synced up to the royal symbolism. So, what I'm talking about is absolutely real. Like, it is all done with this certain script. And if you pay enough attention to these patterns, it's not even just the numbers, but just the patterns, such as, the former Magic coach gets hired to the Lakers just after Magic Johnson resigns. I know that it's also important. Kobe Bryant's really important to this narrative that's been going on. Somebody left a comment on one of my old videos about Kobe's 81-point game, and I didn't even really talk a whole lot about Gematria in this video, but I talked about a lot of interesting things within this video with Kobe and the number 81. And later on, when you learn Gematria, you find out Kobe Bryant's name even equals 81. So think about him scoring 81 points in the game and whatnot. But just think about Kobe Bryant and his history with the Toronto Raptors, right? That was the team that he scored his 81 points against. And currently the Raptors are playing the Philadelphia 76ers. And today's Game 7 on the anniversary of the Philadelphia train wreck that we had in 2015. And Kobe Bryant is a native of Philadelphia. So there's something interesting there. Kobe Bryant scores 81 points against the Raptors. After he tore his Achilles, he came back exactly 34 weeks later, and the first game back he even played the Toronto Raptors. So there is a definite narrative of why the Raptors are playing the 76ers currently, and today, the anniversary of the Philadelphia train wreck that was really important to LeBron James and the Golden State Warriors in 2015, it's interesting to me that the game is going to be played today. And, look at this. Train wreck and Gematria equals 122. Then Golden State went on to win the NBA Finals that year. Golden State 122. Located on the 122nd meridian even. Talked about how it was synced up to Pope Francis's visit to the United States. Pope Francis equals 122. He's named after St. Francis of Assisi, the guy who received the first stigmata. And that's who San Francisco was also named after. And then later that summer, 66 days later, we had the movie Trainwreck come out, right? Look at LeBron equals 66. He was in that movie. LeBron James equals 66. That movie also opens up with Amy Schumer's character being 9 years old, and the rest of the movie takes place 23 years later. And notice what LeBron James' name in Jewish gematria equals, 923. Then Pope Francis arrived in America later that year on his 923rd day being the Pope. And the very next day he went to the White House at 9:23 in the morning on the date of 9:23. Like, what are the odds of that, right? And then I talked about how it was synced up to the World Series and Queen Elizabeth and Pope Francis. And we had the New York Mets who play in Queens who lost in the World Series to the Kansas City Royals. And look what Kansas City equals, 122. Earlier in that year, on the date of 6/6, think about LeBron James, and it was also in the year 15, 1 plus 5 is even a 6. There was a guy who dressed up like Pope Francis at the Royals game and caught a home run ball of Salvador Perez. And then Salvador Perez went on to be the MVP of the World Series that year. And look at Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland Cavaliers equal 168. Also 111. Look at New York Mets equal. New York Mets 168. It's interesting with 111 because New York equals 111. And Queen Elizabeth was born on the 111th day of the year. That's why I think it's interesting that Frank Vogel equals 111 and becomes the Lakers coach 1 month and 11 days before his birthday. So I'm just interested to see what happens today. I could care less. I didn't really look into all of the other things that you should look into to see who's, possibly going to win and how it syncs up. But the narrative is there. Regardless, the game is going to be absolutely scripted when you watch it. I don't know how you can't even deny it. Things that happen all of the time. Earlier in the year, remember LeBron James had this biggest loss ever, and it was by 42 points to the Indiana Pacers when he played for the Lakers, right? Once again, LeBron James equals 42, Lakers equal 42, had his worst loss ever with 42 points to the Indiana Pacers. Look at Indiana Pacers equal 114. Did you notice what LeBron James also equals? LeBron James equals 114. He signed with the Lakers 183 days after his birthday. I mean, it's just such a joke. So, let's see if I missed anything over here. The day that they signed Frank Vogel, May 11th, the 131st day of the year, the word championship equals 131. And LeBron James, after being injured this year, he came back against the Clippers on January 31st, a lot like 131. So there's something interesting about that, the way the Clippers sync up. I'm not sure exactly. I know it has to do with DeMarcus Cousins' Achilles injury and him returning against the Clippers, though. And his Achilles injury was absolutely in connection to Kobe Bryant. Frank Vogel's birthday is also the same as Prince William's. I'm not sure if that's important, but I just want to note that. Prince William, who is third in line or second in line to become the king. If Prince Charles dies and Queen Elizabeth dies, then he would become the king. So that's something interesting to point out. 621. In this article, they also tell us about Jason Kidd is going to be on the staff. And I just pointed out that it's interesting Jason Kidd has the same birthday as Kyrie Irving, who, and Gordon Hayward. But recently there's been a lot of articles about Kyrie Irving possibly going to the Lakers and whatnot. I don't know if that's going to happen, but just pointing it out. They're making it important and they're making people think about it. And Jason Kidd shares the same birthday as Kyrie Irving. And Jason Kidd equals 156. He got fired by the Milwaukee Bucks, who just beat the Boston Celtics and Kyrie Irving. Milwaukee Bucks equal 156. Boston Celtics equal 156. And if you write out 33, it equals 156. Remember, Magic equals 33. NBA Finals equal 33. Also, in regards to this, him being hired on the 131st day of the year and LeBron returning on January 31st, if you go from the day he was hired to September 19th this year, it's 131 days. So, and remember, his name also equals 919 in Jewish. It's an important year, right? These 19s, there's been shootings on every 19 numerology date this year. So, this is a really interesting day. 91919. Maybe, we'll see. We'll see what's going on with it. But I know it's important to Queen Elizabeth. The first ever copyright claim I got was on a video that I put out on 919 about Queen Elizabeth. So, I think I covered everything. Hopefully it makes sense. Check out some other videos in the description. Have a good one. Peace.